right, so today we're diving deep into 20 emerging technologies that will change the world. At least that's what this YouTube video claims. We got a ton to unpack here, articles, research papers, even some of my own notes. It's
Yeah.
going to be fun.
Yeah, it really does seem like we're at this tipping point with technology. Like, it's not just about incremental upgrades anymore. This video is talking about technologies that could completely redefine reality.
Exactly. And that's what we're here for, right? To cut through the hype and figure out what's really worth paying attention to.
Absolutely. So where do you want to start? There's so much to cover.
Well, everyone's talking about AI these days, right? But this video goes beyond the usual stuff. It dives into the difference between narrow AI, the stuff we use every day, and this thing called artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
Right, AGI, that's the big one. It's like the difference between a calculator and a human brain.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break that down for me. What makes AGI so different?
Well, narrow AI is great at specific tasks. Like, a calculator can do math really well, but it can't write a poem. AGI is about creating a system that can learn and adapt across any field, just like a human can.
So we're talking about machines that can think for themselves, solve problems we haven't even thought of yet.
Exactly. The video mentions Google DeepMind and OpenAI as the major players in this field. They're using some really advanced techniques to try and achieve AGI.
Like what? Give me an example.
One technique that's really interesting is reinforcement learning. It's basically training an AI system through trial and error. The AI gets rewarded for good decisions and penalized for bad ones. It's kind of like training a dog.
But instead of fetching a stick, we're talking about solving complex problems, potentially world-changing problems.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say they actually achieve AGI. What then? I mean, the video talks about the potential for super intelligent AI that surpasses human intelligence. It all feels a bit science fiction-y.
It definitely pushes the boundaries of what we thought was possible. But it's a possibility we need to consider. Imagine an intelligence that's thousands or even millions of times more powerful than our own. What could it achieve? But also, how do we control something that's smarter than we are?
It's a bit unsettling, to be honest. And it also makes you wonder, what does it even mean to be intelligent when machines are in the picture? It's like we might need to redefine intelligence itself.
That's a really interesting point. It challenges our whole understanding of what it means to be human.
All right, well, let's move on to something a bit more tangible. The video talks about gene editing with CRISPR next. This is being hailed as a revolution in medicine, right?
It really is revolutionary. Think of CRISPR like molecular scissors that allow scientists to precisely cut and edit DNA. It's like having a find and replace tool for the code of life.
So instead of just treating symptoms, we could potentially cure diseases at their root. I remember reading about CRISPR being used to treat genetic disorders like cystic fibrosis.
Right, and it goes beyond just treating diseases. Imagine being able to prevent genetic diseases from being passed down to future generations.
Whoa, hold on a second. That's getting into some pretty ethically complex territory. The video touches on the possibility of editing human embryos. Were you talking about designer babies here?
It's a debate that's happening right now. CRISPR gives us this incredible power to manipulate the building blocks of life. Where do we draw the line? Who decides what's ethically acceptable?
It's a lot to think about. Okay, so from rewiring our genes, let's jump to rewiring our understanding of computing itself. The video dives into quantum computing next, something I have to admit I find a bit mind-boggling.
Yeah, quantum computing is definitely a mind bender. It's a completely different way of processing information than what we're used to with classical computers.
Okay, break it down for me. What makes quantum computing so different?
Well, classical computers use bits, which can be either a 0 or a 1. Quantum computers use qubits, which can be both 0 and 1 at the same time. It's this crazy concept called superposition.
So it's like they're cheating. Does that mean quantum computers are just inherently faster than regular computers?
It's not just about speed. It's about the ability to explore a massive number of possibilities simultaneously. Imagine you're searching a maze. A classical computer has to try each path one at a time. A quantum computer can explore all paths at the same time.
Okay, my brain is starting to hurt. But I do remember reading about Google achieving quantum supremacy a few years back. They claimed to have solved a problem in minutes that would have taken a classical supercomputer thousands of years. Is that legit?
It is a major milestone. It showed that quantum computers can outperform even the most powerful supercomputers for certain tasks. And other companies like IBM are also heavily invested in quantum computing. It's a rapidly developing field.
So what are the real-world implications of all this? Are we all going to have quantum computers on our desks soon?
Not quite yet, but the potential applications are vast. One area that's ripe for disruption is cryptography. Quantum computers could potentially break many of the encryption systems we rely on today. But they could also lead to the development of new unbreakable codes.
So it's like a cryptographic arms race, but with quantum weapons.
Exactly. And it goes beyond cryptography. Quantum computers could revolutionize drug discovery, materials science, even potentially help us tackle climate change.
Okay, I'm starting to see the potential here. It's like this technology that operates on a completely different level, unlocking possibilities we never thought possible.
Exactly.
Okay, well, from the world of qubits, let's shift to something a little closer to home, or rather inside our heads. The video dives into Neuralink, and the world of brain-computer interfaces next.
Ah, Neuralink. This is Elon Musk's company, right? Trying to merge human brains with computers.
That's the one I've seen, those videos of monkeys playing video games with their minds. It's both amazing and a little freaky. But Neuralink seems to be taking a different approach, using these super thin threads implanted directly into the brain.
Right. Neuralink's goal is to create a high-bandwidth, minimally invasive interface. They want to be able to record and stimulate brain activity with incredible precision.
So we're talking about controlling computers, prosthetic limbs, maybe even virtual worlds just by thinking.
That's the long-term vision. But the initial focus is on medical applications, helping people with paralysis regain control of their limbs, restoring lost senses, things like that.
That's amazing. But the video also hints at some pretty mind-blowing possibilities down the road, like cognitive enhancement and even telepathy.
Yeah, it's definitely pushing the boundaries. But if we can accurately read and interpret brain activity, who knows what's possible? Imagine downloading information directly into your brain or communicating telepathically with others. What would it mean to be human in a world where minds and machines could merge?
Okay, hold on a second. Telepathy. I think we've officially crossed over into science fiction territory.
It's definitely a topic that sparks the imagination.
It does. It really does. But let's bring things back to the physical world for a minute. The video talks about humanoid robots next. And we're not just talking about industrial robots in factories, are we?
No, we're talking about robots that are designed to look and move like humans. Robots that can interact with us in a natural way.
I've seen some of those robots from companies like Boston Dynamics. They're incredibly agile. They can run, jump, even do backflips.
It's pretty amazing how far robotics has come. And AI is playing a key role in making these robots more intelligent and adaptable.
Okay, I have to admit, those robots are both impressive and a little intimidating. What are the implications of having robots that look and act like us integrated into our society? The video talks about robots in healthcare and disaster relief.
The potential benefits are enormous. Imagine humanoid robots assisting surgeons in the operating room, providing care for the elderly, or venturing into dangerous environments to save lives. They could become our companions, our educators, even our co-workers.
Co-workers. You're not suggesting robots are going to take our jobs, are you?
It's a question we need to address. As these robots become more advanced and affordable, they could potentially displace human workers in certain industries. It raises ethical and economic questions about how we adapt our workforce and ensure that everyone benefits from these technological advancements.
Okay, that's a conversation we definitely need to have. But let's move on to something a bit more creative. The video dives into generative AI next. This is the technology behind those AI image generators that are all over the internet, right?
It's much more than just generating images. Generative AI encompasses any system where AI creates new content, text, music, even video. It's based on the idea that AI can not only analyze existing data, but also use that knowledge to generate something entirely new.
So instead of just recognizing a cat in a photo AI, could paint a picture of a cat wearing a hat and riding a unicycle.
Exactly. And it's getting incredibly good at mimicking human creativity. OpenAI's large language models are a good example. They've been trained on massive data sets of text and code, and they can generate incredibly realistic text stories, poems, you name it.
That's both amazing and a little unsettling. What does this mean for human creativity if machines can generate content that's just as good, if not better, than what humans can create? The video mentions AI writing novels and composing music. Is art, as we know it, doomed?
It's a valid concern. Will AI devalue human creativity? Or will it become a tool that augments human creativity, opening up new possibilities and pushing the boundaries of art? It's a question we'll need to grapple with as this technology continues to evolve.
It's definitely a lot to think about. But let's shift gears from the world of AI-generated art to something a bit more grounded, literally Starlink and the future of internet connectivity. This is another Elon Musk venture, right? SpaceX.
Yes, Starlink is SpaceX's ambitious project to provide high-speed internet access to the entire planet, even the most remote locations.
I've heard about this. They're launching thousands of these little satellites into low Earth orbit. You can even get a Starlink kit with that cute little dish they call Dishy. How does it actually work? Are we all going to be getting our internet from space soon?
Starlink is already operational in many parts of the world. The idea is to create a global internet infrastructure that bypasses the limitations of ground-based infrastructure like fiber optic cables. These satellites orbit much closer to Earth than traditional satellites, which means lower latency, faster data transmission.
So it's not just about connecting people in remote areas, it's about potentially having a faster and more reliable internet for everyone. That's pretty cool. But what about space exploration? Does the video mention any applications beyond Earth?
It does. The video touches on the potential of Starlink to provide interplanetary internet. Imagine having real-time communication with a Mars colony or even streaming video from another planet.
Okay, now that's just mind-blowing. From connecting the world to connecting planets, Starlink is definitely ambitious. But this next technology might be even more radical: artificial wombs. Is this about babies being grown in labs?
It's not quite that far along yet, but the science of artificial wombs or exowombs is advancing rapidly. The current focus is on developing systems that can support the development of premature babies outside the human body, essentially replicating the conditions of a natural womb.
So it's more about helping premature babies survive and thrive outside the womb. But I know the video talks about some pretty futuristic applications: fertility treatments, even space travel.
Yeah, the potential goes beyond just neonatal care. Imagine artificial wombs being used for fertility treatments, allowing couples who are unable to conceive naturally to have biological children, or consider the implications for space exploration. Artificial wombs could enable human reproduction in the harsh environments of other planets.
That's both fascinating and ethically complex. It feels like every one of these technologies is pushing the boundaries of what's possible while also raising profound ethical questions.
You're absolutely right. And we're only halfway through our exploration of these 20 emerging technologies. We've got a lot more ground to cover, from manipulating matter at the atomic level with nanotechnology to creating truly smart and sustainable cities.
Well, I'm ready to dive deeper. Let's see what other wonders await us in this technological wonderland.
Okay, so let's talk nanotech. It's this crazy idea that we can manipulate matter at the atomic level, like having tiny building blocks and we can build stuff with them.
And nanotech, it's always sounded super sci-fi to me, but I guess it's becoming more of a reality now.
Right?
Like, what about that graphene stuff I keep hearing about? Isn't it supposed to be like super strong or something?
Oh yeah, graphene is insane. It's basically a single layer of carbon atoms arranged in this honeycomb pattern. But get this, it's like 200 times stronger than steel, but it's also super flexible and lightweight.
No way. That's wild. What could you even do with something like that?
Well, the possibilities are pretty much endless. We're talking about revolutionizing electronics, energy storage, you name it. It could even be used in medicine. Imagine tiny nanobots traveling through your bloodstream, delivering drugs directly to cancer cells or repairing damaged tissues.
Nanobots. Okay, now that's definitely sci-fi. But I guess if we can manipulate stuff at the atomic level, it's not that far-fetched.
Right, exactly. It's like we're entering a whole new realm of possibilities. And it's not just about medicine. Nanotechnology could also help us tackle some of the biggest challenges facing humanity, like climate change.
How so?
Well, for one, it could lead to more efficient solar panels, lighter and stronger materials for vehicles and buildings, reducing energy consumption. We could even develop new ways to capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere using nanotech.
Wow, okay. I'm starting to see the potential here. It's like those tiny particles could have a massive impact.
They really could.
Speaking of interconnectedness, the video jumps into the Internet of Things next, or IoT for short. Isn't that just a fancy way of saying smart devices?
It's more than just smart devices. It's about creating a world where billions of devices, objects, even buildings are all interconnected and talking to each other, constantly sharing data and responding in real time.
So like my refrigerator could tell my coffee maker to start brewing when it senses I'm low on milk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about creating a more efficient and responsive world. Imagine smart cities where traffic lights adjust to optimize traffic flow, buildings that automatically adjust lighting and temperature based on occupancy, farms that use sensors to monitor soil conditions and optimize crop yields. The possibilities are endless.
It sounds amazing. But isn't there a downside to all this connectivity? What about privacy concerns and security risks?
Those are definitely valid concerns. As
Yeah.
we connect more devices, we create more potential points of vulnerability. We need to develop robust security measures and ethical guidelines to ensure that the benefits of IoT outweigh the risks.
It's a balance we need to strike carefully, for sure. Okay, let's shift gears from the digital world back to the physical for a minute. The video dives into autonomous vehicles next. Self-driving cars are no longer just a futuristic fantasy, are they?
Nope, they're becoming more and more common. Companies like Tesla Waymo Cruise, they're all testing self-driving cars on public roads. The technology is advancing rapidly.
I've seen those self-driving taxis in some cities, but I'll admit I'm still a bit hesitant to trust a car that drives itself. How does it even work? It seems like magic to me.
It's pretty complex, but basically these cars use a bunch of sensors, cameras, radar, LiDAR to create a 3D map of their surroundings. Then they use sophisticated algorithms to process that data and make decisions about steering, braking, accelerating, all without any human input.
So it's like a computer's doing the driving. What about those tricky ethical dilemmas that come up, like the trolley problem where the car has to choose between harming one person or another? How do we program morality into a machine?
Those are some of the toughest questions facing the developers of this technology. There are no easy answers. It's something we as a society need to grapple with as these vehicles become more prevalent. We need to figure out what our values are and how we want those values to be reflected in the decisions these machines make.
Yeah, it's definitely uncharted territory. But let's leave the ethical debates for another day and blast off to something a bit more fun, space tourism. It's no longer just a dream for billionaires, is it?
Not anymore. Companies like Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic are making space tourism more accessible, offering suborbital flights that give you a taste of weightlessness and those incredible views of Earth from space.
I've seen those photos. It looks amazing.
Right.
But beyond the thrill ride, what's the bigger picture here? What's the future of space tourism?
Well, the goal is to make space travel as common as air travel, eventually opening up new opportunities for research exploration and even commercial ventures. Imagine space hotels, lunar bases, asteroid mining. It sounds like science fiction, but it could become a reality in our lifetime.
Space hotels and asteroid mining. Count me in. But for now, let's come back down to Earth literally and talk about something a bit more practical. Smart cities. What does it actually mean to have a smart city? I hear the term thrown around a lot, but I'm not sure I really understand it.
A smart city is basically a city that uses technology and data to improve the lives of its citizens. It's about creating a more efficient, sustainable, and livable urban environment. We're talking about interconnected systems for traffic management, energy distribution, waste disposal, public safety, you name it.
So it's like the city runs itself using sensors and data to optimize everything. That sounds pretty cool, but are there any downsides? What about privacy?
That's a big one. Smart cities rely on collecting a lot of data about their citizens, their movements, their habits, their energy consumption. So we need to make sure that data is used responsibly, not for surveillance or discrimination. We need to have clear guidelines and safeguards in place.
It's a trade-off, right? Convenience versus privacy. It's something we're going to have to figure out as these technologies become more integrated into our lives. Okay, let's switch gears from the physical world to a world that blends the real and the digital mixed reality. Is this just another way of saying virtual reality?
It's similar but not quite the same. VR immerses you in a completely digital environment. Mixed reality blends the digital and physical worlds. It's like imagine wearing a headset that overlays digital information onto your real-world view. You can see and interact with virtual objects as if they were actually there.
So it's like augmented reality, but way more immersive. I've played with those AR apps that let you see dinosaurs in your living room. But this sounds next level. What are the practical applications of mixed reality? Like, how could this actually be used in the real world?
The potential is huge. Imagine surgeons using mixed reality to visualize organs in 3D during surgery, or architects walking through virtual models of buildings before they're constructed, or students taking virtual field trips to ancient Rome. It could transform how we work, learn, and experience the world.
It's like we're blurring the lines between the physical and digital, which is both exciting and a little mind-bending. But let's move on to a technology that's already changing the world in a big way. 3D printing. I know it's been around for a while, but the video makes it sound like we're on the verge of some major breakthroughs.
3D printing or additive manufacturing is definitely becoming more mainstream. It's being used to create everything from prototypes to medical implants to aerospace components. And one of the most exciting areas is bioprinting, using 3D printing to create living tissues and organs.
Okay, I've seen those 3D printed models and gadgets, but printing organs, that sounds insane. Is that really possible?
It's becoming a reality. Researchers are already printing skin grafts, cartilage, even simple organs like bladders. The goal is to eventually be able to print fully functional organs for transplantation, which could solve the organ donor shortage and revolutionize healthcare.
Wow, that's incredible. But what about other applications? What else can we 3D print? Are there any limitations?
The possibilities are vast, and the technology is constantly evolving. We can print with a growing variety of materials, plastics, metals, ceramics, even food. Imagine a future where we can print almost anything we need on demand, from personalized clothing to custom medical devices. It's the ultimate in customization.
Okay, that's pretty mind-blowing. But let's talk about powering all these amazing devices and technologies. The video dives into solid-state batteries next. Are these the batteries of the future? I know they're supposed to be a game changer for electric vehicles.
They have the potential to be. They're safer, more energy dense, and they charge faster than traditional lithium-ion batteries.
So we're talking longer battery life for our phones and laptops and maybe even electric cars that can go hundreds of miles on a single charge. Tell me more.
The key difference is the electrolyte, the material that conducts ions between the battery's electrodes. Traditional lithium-ion batteries use a liquid electrolyte, which is flammable and can leak. Solid-state batteries use a solid electrolyte, which is much safer and more stable. They can also pack more energy into the same space, so you get higher energy density.
More power, safer, faster charging. It sounds like a win-win-win. So why aren't we all using solid-state batteries already? What's the holdup?
The main challenges are cost and scalability. Solid-state batteries are still more expensive to manufacture than traditional batteries, and it's not easy to produce them at the scale we need. But research is ongoing, and many experts believe that they'll become mainstream in the not-too-distant future.
Fingers crossed. Solid-state batteries sound like the real deal. But from powering devices, let's shift to powering the world, fusion power. Isn't this like the holy grail of clean energy? Limitless power from seawater, right?
Fusion power definitely has the potential to revolutionize energy production. It's the process that powers the sun and the stars, and it's incredibly efficient and clean. We're talking about a nearly limitless source of energy with no greenhouse gas emissions and minimal radioactive waste.
It sounds almost too good to be true. What's the catch? Why aren't we all running on fusion power already?
Well, the biggest challenge is actually achieving fusion. It requires incredibly high temperatures and pressures, like hotter than the core of the sun, and we need to be able to contain that superheated plasma. It's a massive engineering challenge.
So we're essentially trying to create a mini sun here on Earth.
Basically,
Yeah.
it's not easy, but scientists and engineers are making progress. There are major projects underway like ITER, which is an international collaboration to build the world's largest fusion reactor. If we can figure this out, it would be a game changer for the planet.
Fusion power, definitely something to keep an eye on. But from the power of the atom, let's jump to the power of decentralization, blockchain. I know it's mostly associated with cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, but the video talks about a bunch of other potential applications.
Right. Blockchain is much more than just cryptocurrency. It's fundamentally a new way of storing and managing information. Think of it as a digital ledger that's distributed across a network of computers, making it incredibly secure and transparent.
Okay, so it's like a super secure spreadsheet that everyone can see, but what can you actually do with it besides trading Bitcoin?
The possibilities are pretty vast. Imagine supply chains where every step from the origin of the raw materials to the final product is tracked on a blockchain. You'd have complete transparency and accountability. Or imagine secure voting systems where every vote is recorded immutably on a blockchain, eliminating the possibility of fraud. We could even use blockchain to create digital identities, giving individuals more control over their personal data.
So it's about creating a more trustworthy and transparent digital world.
Yeah.
But doesn't blockchain also have a reputation for being kind of slow and energy intensive?
Those were valid concerns with early blockchain platforms like Bitcoin. But newer blockchain technologies are being developed that are much more scalable and efficient. It's a technology that's constantly evolving.
Okay, so blockchain is more than just a buzzword. It's something with real potential to change the way we do things. But from the digital world, let's head back to the comfort of our homes, specifically smart homes. We're all familiar with smart speakers and connected appliances. But is this really the future of home living?
I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with smart homes. Imagine a home that anticipates your needs, adjusts the lighting and temperature to your preferences, monitors your health, and even automates chores. It's about creating a more comfortable, convenient, and personalized living experience.
So it's like having a personal assistant, a housekeeper, and a health coach all rolled into one. Sign me up. But what are the key technologies that are driving this smart home revolution? What's making all of this possible?
Well, AI and machine learning are a big part of it. They allow these systems to learn our habits, anticipate our needs, and personalize the experience. But we're also talking about advancements in sensor technology, robotics, and energy management systems.
It's a pretty amazing vision of the future.
Yeah.
A home that's not just a place to live, but a responsive and intelligent environment. But what about privacy? People are already kind of freaked out about smart speakers listening to their conversations.
Yeah.
How do we make sure our smart homes are truly secure and respect our privacy.
It's definitely a valid concern. We need to make sure these systems are designed with privacy in mind. That means strong security measures like encryption data anonymization and user controls that give people choices about what data they share.
It's all about finding that balance between convenience and privacy, which is becoming increasingly challenging in our hyper-connected world. Okay, let's wrap up our deep dive with a topic that's near and dear to my heart and stomach. Lab-grown meat. Is this the future of food? Can we really create meat in a lab that tastes just as good as the real thing?
Lab-grown meat or cultured meat is definitely a hot topic right now. And yeah, the goal is to produce real meat, not a plant-based substitute, but actual meat grown from animal cells without having to raise and slaughter animals.
I've heard about it, but the whole idea of eating meat grown in a lab still sounds a little weird to me. How does it even work?
It starts with taking a small sample of cells from an animal, usually a biopsy. Those cells are then put in a nutrient-rich solution where they multiply and grow into muscle tissue, which is basically meat.
So it's real meat, just made in a different way. But what are the advantages of lab-grown meat over traditional meat production?
Well, for one, it could significantly reduce the environmental impact of meat production. Livestock farming is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, deforestation, and water pollution. Lab-grown meat could also address animal welfare concerns since you don't need to raise and slaughter animals.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But is it actually sustainable? Like, how much energy does it take to grow meat in a lab?
It's still early days, but research suggests that lab-grown meat could be significantly more energy efficient than traditional livestock farming, especially as the technology improves.
Okay, that's good to hear.
But let's be honest, taste matters. Does lab-grown meat actually taste like the real thing?
That's the big question, and the answer is it's getting there.
Hmm.
Companies are constantly refining their techniques, and blind taste tests have shown that it's already pretty hard to tell the difference between lab-grown meat and conventional meat.
Wow, that's impressive. So we could have our burgers and eat them too without the ethical and environmental baggage. Count me in. It's a pretty exciting possibility lab-grown meat could really transform our relationship with food.
I'm definitely intrigued.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive so far, from the microscopic world of nanotechnology to the vast expanse of space.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing stuff. I'm telling you, it's a lot to process, from rewriting DNA with CRISPR to, like, creating mini-suns on Earth with fusion. These 20 emerging technologies, and they really give you a glimpse of a future that's, well, it's both exciting and a bit scary, you know?
It's definitely a future that's unlike anything we've ever seen before. I mean, we're talking about technologies that could solve some of humanity's biggest problems.
Right.
But at the same time, they raise these really deep questions about what it even means to be human in a world that's so shaped by technology.
Yeah, it's like, where do we even fit in when machines can do so much? But I guess that's kind of the point of this whole deep dive, right?
Yeah.
To understand these technologies and how they're going to impact our lives.
Exactly. It's not just about understanding the science behind it. It's about understanding the implications, the ethical questions, the potential consequences, both good and bad.
Right, because knowledge is power, but only if you know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So for our listeners out there, the people who aren't scientists or tech experts, what can they do? How can they navigate this rapidly changing world?
Well, I think the first step is awareness. It's about being informed, paying attention to what's happening, and understanding how these technologies are going to impact our lives, our communities, our planet. It's about being engaged citizens, not just passive observers.
So if it's not about being scared of technology, it's about understanding it so we can shape it right.
Exactly. And that's where critical thinking comes in. Don't just believe the hype or the fear-mongering. Ask questions, challenge assumptions, and think for yourself. What are the potential benefits of this technology? What are the potential risks? Are we creating solutions that work for everyone? Or are we just making the same old problems worse?
It's easy to get caught up in all the cool stuff, but we need to think about the bigger picture, the long-term consequences, both intended and unintended.
Absolutely. It's about having those difficult conversations about the role of technology in society, about the kind of future we want to create. It's not about rejecting progress, it's about steering it in the right direction.
I like that, steering progress. It's like we're all at the helm trying to navigate these uncharted waters. But man, there's so much to consider. Looking back at all the technologies we've discussed, is there one that stands out to you as the most significant? Like, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to remember from this deep dive?
You know, what really strikes me is the interconnectedness of it all. It's not just about individual breakthroughs anymore. It's about how these technologies are converging and amplifying each other's impact. AI is a prime example. It's being integrated into almost every other technology we talked about. Robotics, gene editing, smart cities, even lab-grown meat. It's all connected.
It's like a technological web with everything intertwined. And yeah, it makes it hard to predict where all of this is going. But I guess that's part of the excitement, right? The unknown, the possibilities. So what are you most excited about? What are you most curious to see unfold?
Honestly, what excites me most is the potential to solve some of the really big problems we're facing as a species. I'm talking about curing diseases, eradicating poverty, creating a truly sustainable way of life. These technologies give us the tools to build a better future, but it's up to us to use them wisely.
I like that. A
Yeah.
better future. It's a good reminder that for all the challenges, there's also a lot of hope. So any final words of wisdom for our listeners as we wrap up this epic deep dive?
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep imagining. The future is not something that just happens to us. It's something we create. So get involved, have those tough conversations, and help shape the world you want to live in.
Well said. And on that note, I want to thank you for joining us on this wild ride through the world of emerging technologies. It's been a fascinating journey, and I'm definitely walking away with a lot to think about.
It's been a pleasure exploring all this with you.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.